Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into a really complex aspect of narcissism. We're going to be talking about the narcissist's inner child and how that concept really factors into how they attract and manipulate other people.
Yeah, that's right. This is uh not exactly light material, you know?
Right.
What we're really talking about here is a potent psychological dynamic. The more you understand it, the better you'll be able to navigate these uh you know, these kinds of relationships in your own life.
Exactly. So we know that narcissists often display childlike qualities. But how does that play into the dynamic?
Well, I think, it's all about tapping into something very primal.
Right.
When you think about it, immaturity, vulnerability, that kind of, almost innocent charm. These traits can be incredibly powerful in triggering, deep-seated caregiving instincts in other people, especially, people who are naturally empathetic. It's almost like a distress signal,
Right.
a cry for unconditional love and acceptance.
So is the narcissist essentially presenting like a carefully crafted persona?
Yes,
This wounded inner child who needs like protection.
that's a very insightful way to put it. And this presentation, it's so potent, in fact, that the expert we're looking at today actually refers to it as child bait, right? Which is child bait. Yeah. They even go so far as to say that it can be even more effective than, using sexuality as a tool of attraction.
Wow. Child bait. That's a really intense term. So what makes it so effective?
Well, it really plays on some of our deepest desires for connection and intimacy, right? By by presenting this vulnerable childlike facade, the narcissist is essentially offering a blank slate upon which the other person can project their own fantasies, right? Of healing, of redemption. They become the savior, the one who can finally provide the love and acceptance that the narcissist supposedly never received.
So it's not just about like attracting someone, it's about creating a very specific kind of bond.
Exactly. And narcissist isn't just looking for any connection. They're looking for someone who will step into a carefully constructed role within their, psychological world. It's about weaving a shared feeling. It's a fantasy, a narrative where both the narcissist and the other person become locked into these complementary roles. You know what I mean?
Right. And what role does the other person end up playing in this fantasy? Like, are they
Well,
the rescuer?
think of it as a codependent dynamic. The narcissist takes on the role of the wounded child, and the other person becomes the caregiver, the protector, the one who's responsible for the narcissist's emotional whittling. It's a really potent dynamic because it plays on our fundamental human need to feel needed and important.
It sounds like a form of regression, almost like both parties are, you know, kind of pulled back into these childlike roles within the fantasy.
That's a really astute observation. Yeah, the expert we're drawing from calls this co-infantilization, right? Okay. It's kind of a mutual regression where the boundaries between adult and child, they become very blurred. And both individuals end up operating from a place of emotional, uh, you know, immaturity. And this creates an incredibly strong sense of responsibility for the other person. It becomes very difficult to break away because you feel like you're abandoning a helpless child.
So that's really insightful. It's starting to make sense why so many people find themselves trapped in these types of relationships. But you're talking about the narcissist's inner child. Doesn't that suggest there's a real, like, authentic child inside them that's early?
That's where things get really interesting And we have to start to consider the clinical perspective here. What the expert is suggesting is that from a purely psychological standpoint, narcissists may not actually have a true inner child. Inner child in the typical sense.
Wait, so we've been talking about the inner child this whole time. You're saying it doesn't even exist?
Well, it's not that it doesn't exist, but rather that it functions very differently in the context of narcissism. To understand this, we need to delve into the concept of developmental amnesia.
Amnesia? Okay, what is that?
It's a complex phenomenon where early childhood trauma can actually disrupt the way that the brain forms and stores memories. Okay? Specifically, it can impair the ability to form what we call episodic memories, right? The kind of memories that relate to specific events and experiences. So even though the narcissistic trauma, this may have experienced, really significant trauma in their early childhood, they may not have clear or accessible memories of those specific events.
So they're carrying the wounds of the past, but they might not even be fully aware of where those wounds come from or what they even represent.
Precisely. And this leads to what the expert calls arrested development, right? Because of these gaps in there, emotional development, the narcissist can kind of get stuck at an earlier stage, exhibiting these childlike behaviors and patterns of relating that haven't fully matured.
But if this isn't like a conscious choice, if their behavior stems from these developmental challenges, does that mean they're not really responsible for their actions?
Well, that's a very nuanced question. And there's a lot of debate about the degree to which narcissists are aware of the impact of their actions, right? But what the expert really emphasizes is that regardless of their level of awareness, the narcissist's behavior is still deeply harmful to those around them.
So even if they're not consciously manipulating others, and the result still is the same pain and dysfunction.
Exactly. Understanding the roots of their behavior doesn't excuse it. It simply provides a framework, right? Yeah, for understanding the complex dynamics at play, right? And this leads us to one of the most, I think, provocative claims that the expert makes, which is that there's this fundamental emptiness, this void at the core of the narcissist.
Wow. So are you saying that behind the facade of the inner child, there's nothing authentic there?
The expert's perspective is that the narcissist's true self, if it ever existed, has been so fragmented and distorted by trauma that it becomes almost inaccessible, like a house that's been built on unstable ground, with cracks and fissures running throughout the foundation.
So everything we see, all those, charming, charismatic behaviors, it's all just a performance designed to elicit a specific reaction from other people.
That's the argument, yeah. It's a survival mechanism, a way of navigating the world and getting their needs met. But it lacks the depth and the authenticity of a truly integrated self.
So if there is this fundamental void at their core, does that mean they're incapable of genuine love and connection?
That's a question that has no easy answers,
Yeah.
The expert's position is that the narcissist's capacity for love is severely limited by this lack of a solid sense of self. Okay? They can become attached to people. They can experience, feelings of possessiveness and things like that, right? But it's not love in the way that, most people understand it, right? It's much more transactional based on what the other person can provide for them.
This is all very unsettling, but it's also starting shed light on why these relationships can be so incredibly painful and confusing.
Absolutely. The more you understand about the nature of of narcissism, the better equipped you'll be to navigate these dynamics and protect yourself, you know?
How do you break free from a relationship like this? Especially when you're, caught in that level of infantilization, like feeling responsible for the narcissist's well-being.
It's not easy, but it starts with awareness, right? Recognizing the patterns, understanding the tactics, and really seeing the inner child for what it is, right? This carefully crafted persona designed to keep you hooked.
So knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Like by understanding the mechanics of narcissism, we can start to kind of detach and reclaim our own sense of like agency.
Exactly. You can begin to, question the narcissist's narrative, set boundaries, and prioritize your own needs. It's a process, and it can be incredibly challenging. Yeah. But, with each step you take, you weaken the narcissist's hold on you.
This is so insightful. It's like we are, peeling back the layers of an onion, revealing like all the complexities of the narcissist's inner world or lack thereof, I guess.
And with that understanding comes the potential for healing and liberation. It's not about, demonizing the narcissist or trying to fix them, right? It's about empowering yourself to make choices that are aligned with your own well-being.
And for those who are struggling with like the aftermath of a relationship with a narcissist, what message of like hope can be offered them?
First and foremost, you are not alone. There are countless others who have navigated these same treacherous waters and emerged stronger on the other side, right? And there are, resources available to help you heal and rebuild your life.
It's so important, seeking support, whether it's, from therapists, support group, or, trusted friends and family can be like incredibly powerful in the healing journey.
Absolutely. Remember, you are worthy of love, respect, and healthy relationships, and you have the strength within you to break free from the cycle of narcissism and create a life that is truly your own.
Such powerful words of encouragement. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I kind of want to circle back to one more point, the expert's assertion that there is this like weight on the narcissist or like the idea that there is no like real authentic self there. It is kind of hard to grasp.
It is a challenging concept, and to be honest, there's a lot of debate within the field of psychology about the nature of the narcissist's self, right? But the expert's perspective, again, is that the narcissist's true self, if it ever existed, has been so fragmented and buried by trauma that it's essentially inaccessible.
So what we see is just a series of masks, like a performance designed to get their needs met.
That's the argument, yeah. And if you think about it, it explains a lot of the narcissist's behaviors, right? Their constant need for validation, their inability to empathize, their manipulative tactics. It all stems from this fundamental lack of a stable, cohesive self.
So there's no true self there. Does that mean they're incapable of love?
That's a complex question, and one that I don't think we can definitively answer here, But what we can say is that their capacity for love is severely limited, They can become attached to people. They can feel a sense of, possessiveness, but it's not love in the way that most people understand it, right? It's much more about, control and gratification of their own needs.
This is also thought-provoking. I'm starting to see how, like, understanding the narcissist in a world or lack thereof, I guess, can be like key to breaking free from their grasp.
Exactly. It's not about excusing their behavior or accepting abuse. It's about gaining clarity and empowering yourself to make healthier choices.
I love that. Empowerment is such an important part of healing from any kind of toxic relationship.
It is, and it's what we want you to take away from this deep dive. You are not responsible for fixing the narcissist. You're not obligated to stay in a relationship that's hurting you. You have the right and the power to choose a different path.
Yeah, such powerful words and, such a vital message for anyone who's been impacted by narcissism.
Absolutely. And, before we wrap things up, I think it's important to reiterate that, this is just one perspective on a very complex topic.
Right. There is no like one size fits all answer when it comes to understanding narcissism.
Exactly. There's ongoing research and debate within the field, and what we've discussed today is really just a starting point. We encourage you to continue exploring, to read more, to seek out different perspectives.
That's great advice, and I think it leads perfectly into the final thought we want to leave you with today. If the narcissist inner child is truly a facade, or performance rather than authentic part of their being,
Yeah,
what are the long-term implications for those who have been drawn into this dynamic? What happens to the individuals who's constantly trying to nurture and heal a wound, that doesn't actually exist?
yeah, that's the question we want to leave you with. It's something to ponder as you move forward in your own relationships and interactions. It's about recognizing the signs, understanding the dynamics, and most importantly, protecting your own emotional well-being.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a heavy but, incredibly insightful journey exploring the depth of narcissism or, perhaps more accurately, the weight that often resides there.
Right?
But as we discussed, knowledge is power, and by, understanding these complex dynamics, we can empower ourselves to make healthier choices in our relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the narcissist's inner child. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that will help you navigate the complexities of human relationships.
And until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the fascinating world of human psychology.